Hi everybody, it's Caroline here. Today I wanted to share a video of how I'm putting together my Week in the Life notebook. I live in the UK and I made the decision to join in with Week in the Life this year quite late, and so I didn't have time to order any of the products, the physical products from the Ali Edwards store, and so I have ordered and printed out the digital notebook. And I've printed this out in advance of the Week in the Life not event, or in advance of Week in the Life, so it doesn't include any of my photos, journaling, any of that. This is literally just a blank notebook for me to assemble. You'll see there is a white border. That is because I'm in the UK and I've printed on A4 paper, and my settings weren't quite right, so it's come up with a white border. It doesn't really matter because I'm probably going to be using a different notebook cover anyway, and the only other pages this slightly impacts are the days, the dividers, and I don't mind it with the white border around it, to be honest, so I'm not that precious about that. I'll talk through or put some info onto how I printed this out as a booklet, but basically my original intention was just to fold these, if you can imagine, stitch it, and then I have my own Week in the Life notebook, about A5 size, it's kind of 6x8 size, ready to go. But you'll see it's actually really chunky already, and if I just show you a traveller's notebook that I've stitched for myself, you'll see why I'm changing the plan of what I'm going to do. Okay, so this is a traveller's notebook that I've stitched for myself to use when my current one is full, and you will see that it gets really chunky when I fill it, and that is my intention with the Week in the Life notebook, that I'll be adding in papers, cardstock, cards, photos, embellishments, and so this is going to get chunky as well, and so I've decided instead to cut it and bind it, and so that is what I'm going to be doing here now. I've done a quick test punch with my cinch, so I'm going to be having circular holes, and I'm fairly sure that this is going to be, and because I'm cutting it I could trim that edge off, but I really am not that fussed. So yeah, I'm going to be cinching this together, and then I will show you what it looks like. I'm really excited to be sharing some daily videos on here when I put this together. Okay, so I have this all trimmed and in the correct order. What I'm going to do now though is, because I do know that when I punch the holes, I'm potentially, so for example when I turn the pages, if you imagine the binding will be here, and this is meant to be a stitch notebook so it wouldn't normally be a problem. When I punch the holes I'm going to be punching through some of the words, but because I have printed this exactly as it was meant to be, and because the team that designed this have obviously thought about things, we have things like blank pages on the back, so I'm going to just jig the order around a little bit so that the holes, I'll be punching the holes here. The order in the notebook is the day of the week, so Monday, and then it goes straight into the timeline, but I'm going to change that so it's going to be Monday and then a blank page for me to add maybe a mind map or a photo, who knows. Then I'll turn the page, and because my holes will be punched on this side, it won't be impacting on those days and sort of that timeline. So that's what I'm going to do next, is go through, switch all the timelines around and just check as well. So for example, on the more of the story, I probably am just going to turn all of these now so that on that side will be there, then we'll have more of the story, switch it, and then I'll have by the numbers, and we have this slightly wider border there. You might not be able to pick up the grey boxes, but that, yeah, that'll be fine on the hole punching. So just switching things out, moving things around to make this work for me, and then I'll give you a show. I'll show you what it looks like after. Okay, so my notebook is ready to have the holes punched. This is an A5 size now, so it's 8.25 wide by, what is it, 5? Yeah, 5.75 I'd say, in width. I'm going to be punching the holes down this side, so I have it in exactly the correct order, and because it's 8.25 high and the cinch that I'm using the holes are set for either 8 inches high or 8.5 inches high. So the only thing I know I need to do is make sure that I insert all of these in the correct way, or because there's going to be a slight offset. So for example, I'm fairly sure there's going to be the top of my binding is going to have a higher, a bigger gap. Yeah, the top, well, either the top or the bottom, depending on which way I put it in, but there's going to be a bigger gap at one end. So I need to make sure that I get everything in the correct way so that that gap stays at the top. If I'm going to go with it at the top or at the bottom, whichever way I decide, I need to make sure I get things lined up so that when I start putting these onto the rings, it's not going to be all out of alignment. Yeah, so I haven't, I've just done this one. I had a dodgy print on the first page, so I just cleaned the print head. So I've tested it on this. I'm going to have one more test hole punch and I'm just going to go for it. So keep your fingers crossed for me, because I don't want to have to print this again. Okay, so everything is hole punched, ready for me to bind. It's taken me a lot longer than I had intended or I had hoped, because I messed up my hole punching. Only on one small bundle, basically the Tuesday section. On the second hole punch, it went out of alignment, so that happened, and then everything just was really frustrating from there. So because I printed these as a booklet, they are smaller, so these are A4 A5 size pages, but obviously the original notebook is meant to be larger than that. So then when I printed out the pages, the Tuesday pages to hole punch correctly, which are now in here, I had to print them out just as individual but double-sided, which meant they were slightly larger. But the positives, so I like to focus on the positives. So the positives are that by making this mistake, I realised that I could have my days without that border. Because what I've now done is I've gone back in. If you look, that was how it was when I printed it as the booklet, and I said I was okay with it, and I was. But because I've had to reprint Tuesday, it's slightly larger, which means I have no border, no white border. And because I really liked that, I've actually gone back in and I have reprinted the other days, Monday to, yeah, I've printed all of the days so that I can then swap them out. What I have done, so this is where it's been a bit of a comedy of errors. I forgot to print these back to back, so they don't have the grid on the back. Does that annoy me? Yes. Is it a problem? No. Because my intention is to put a photo on here anyway. I'm only going to put them into the rings. I'm not going to cinch the rings closed, so that I can work with this and add in full page photos that I then hole punch, adhere to the back and hole punch. So this is going to get covered up anyway, so it really doesn't matter. So what I'm going to do is get these on the rings, switching out so that I have the full pages instead of these. I didn't print my week in the life again, so I think I'm probably just going to adhere that onto the back with a bit of adhesive, or maybe even just put something different there, who knows. Yeah, so that's my next stage, is going to be get these inserted into the correct places and then get these on the rings. I need to just create myself a couple of covers for this. I would like to go with a hard cover, cinch everything together in a really loose way so that I can open them up, as I said, to add those photos in, and then I'll give you a flip through so you can see what it looks like when it's finally all done. Okay, so it's all in and bound. It's only roughly done, and you'll see that what this is what I would call a Frankenstein notebook. Because I decided, rather than just creating covers from scratch, these rings were actually from a diary. So I have a page a day diary every year, and I make sure to get the ring bound one. And then when I've finished with my diary, it's not a memory keeping diary or anything like that. I just use it for to-do lists, so it really needs to get thrown away at the end of each year. but what I do is I keep the rings and I keep the covers. And so I'm going to use this cover. I will decorate it so that you can't actually see that this is last year's old diary, but it's in good, that, you know, it's not bent or anything. It's got the elastic on there still because of that. So I'll get this all nicely covered up, but what I've done is put the notebook in it. I did put this in here for now. This is just on copy paper, as you'll see, so it's not perfect, it's not precious. I don't want it to be precious. I want to document the week, pop some photos in, do some stamping, have fun documenting the week in real time in something that is not super precious, so that I don't care if I make a mistake, what it looks like as I go, if I kind of do an ink blot, if my handwriting isn't wonderful. I want to document the week is the primary objective. And then once I've done that documentation and I've stuck some photos in here and I've got words down, for example, I can decide if I want to go back in and recreate it in a more aesthetic way, I guess. You know, if I want to do that, then I can get a binder or work with a binder that I've got. I could reprint this, so it's even more of a hybrid, so I could put the photos on before I print it, so that it's not just printed on copy paper, it's maybe printed on matte photo paper or cardstock even. But for now, I've got it, it's done, it's made, it's in here, it's bound so that it can get chunky. It's bound in a way that I can easily add things in, either by punching holes like I've done here, and then what I do is I just snip a little snip like that. I'm sure you've seen loads of people do it, so that I can then insert them into the rings. So I could do that with some additional journal cards, additional photos, but it's in here, it's done. And I'm excited that I got it done. I'm pleased that it looks like this and that I have it in the rings. This has the capacity to get really chunky if I wanted it to. The great thing with hybrid scrapbooking, so with this as a printable, is if I do something that I'm not happy with, I can reprint the page. I can just reprint the page and insert it. It's not a problem. Yeah, it's not a problem at all. Whereas when I'm working with physical products, so if it was the physical notebook, for example, I know that I would be more precious about it. So this way I can just carry this around, stick it in my bag if I'm going out. Probably not, but I think I'm due to go out Tuesday. It's probably all the rest of it. Yeah, it can just come with me. It's already battered. I'm not going to cover the decorate the cover until afterwards. So excited. Yeah, excited to document and to share the process along the way. Bye for now.